champion.
Cold beer here. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Matthew Jouer, and
I'm Tilly.
I like to drink beer. This is Ben Tilson, and we are ready to chat some beer with you. Ben, what's happening? What's up with you?
Not much. Not a whole lot going on in my life. Just the usual. I got beer, and I went camping, so that was a little bit of fun. Drank a ton of great beer out there, as well as a ton of very cheap by the case beer. But no, it's been good over here. I know that you've been on a little bit of a vacation with more to come. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. We spent a little time in North Carolina last week. We were in the Charlotte area. Started the trip in Newton, North Carolina. It is a quaint small town in the hills of North Carolina. We are partners and licensed our beers with a new concept, I suppose, called Community Brewing Ventures. One thing that kept coming up and that we liked over the weekend, we called it blockchain brewing. And obviously with crypto in the news daily, the idea of a decentralized way to manufacture and distribute beers is something that can really, really help small breweries who otherwise have really no chance to get beer out there. So we've been working with them a little bit. We did a deal that we don't have any capital investment in this. It's simply the IP that we have obviously invested in already. And we are making, to start with, 4 beers that they will go to market with in, I think, 4 states: North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and Texas. And we'll just take it from there. We'll continue to do, our piloting and R&D in Tampa. And when things kind of pop and something we like, we'll add something new or a seasonal to the menu up there. But it was a great trip. Met a bunch of the people involved. They own a brewery there called D9, and there are 3 different D9 tap rooms currently. And so as a part of visiting up there, I got to stop at a bunch of other awesome breweries. I'm drinking
it's got to be a benefit.
I'm drinking a Whatever You Feel, Just Dance It, double dry hopped, juicy IPA from Resident Culture. Was a really awesome trip there. They're fantastic brewery, great lagers, and really great people. Sat and chatted with one of the owners for quite a while. She was great. Beautiful spot. And so yeah, this is my first time trying this. Beautiful color.
Looks gorgeous. Color. I love it. And this is one of the reasons why I said we had to do video. Yes, if you're listening to just the audio, we do have the video available on YouTube as well if you want to check it out. It's a very good medium for looking at beer. If you're a beer nerd, you'll appreciate the views of it as much. So with the calling it like blockchain brewing, I kind of look at it being more of a computer guy. It's like distributed computer stuff, it's like cloud computing stuff. Yeah. You all work together, spread out to be able to like spread those smaller, basically doing what big breweries can just do because of their size and scale, just kind of spreading it out a little bit to help with some of that distribution footprint, which is pretty cool.
Using scale to drive down price and increase revenues, really, like there's so many different ways. I think everybody's business, if they're involved in manufacturing or just sales in general, sort of understand how that works. But we can't, we get 0 deals on materials because of what size we are.
Yeah.
And that those large scale brewing and that kind of investment. And what also is neat is that like they have a 10 barrel, their production facility is a 10 barrel brewery. So all of the beer getting made to scale is getting made at partner contract breweries. So when I say it's decentralized, I mean, beer is getting dialed in, recipeed, and Joe was up there with Levi, their head brewer, and other brewers there making our dry hop blonde and our stout. Xander, our hazy IPA, and Elias, our hazy double IPA, will get made at a contract facility because of scale. And it's really neat. They've got an incredible vision. So I'm looking forward to the journey and, being able to do something a little bit different, be a guinea pig of sorts.
Somebody's got to start, and sometimes it may not work out, but when it does work out and you're kind of near the front edge of it, it's beneficial to be willing to take a step like that.
If we don't have to spend any money at this point in time, that's the big thing. We're obviously, most risk comes with a capital outlay of some sort. And, if it isn't working for us, that definitely means it's not working for them. And so, that will be what it will be. But we're incredibly humbled to be able to have our brand start to be splattered around the region, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, it's good. Congratulations. Sounds like a cool deal. I'm sure you'll keep us updated as to progress along this path, which is obviously not going to be an immediate payout thing there. But you mentioned what you're drinking. I'm not drinking anything fancy that I went and visited because, like I said, I went camping this past weekend, but I'm drinking a New Belgium. It's hard to get it's very glary. Voodoo Ranger Juicifer, so also very juicy IPA. It's almost the same exact color as yours.
That's right.
All right. Well, so just hopefully we can coordinate some. Maybe I'll send a beer package down. I have a good box for it with some local stuff from up here this next week, and we can make something happen with coordinating some beer tasting for a segment here.
Yeah, we'll do. We'll definitely have some segments coming up where we identify certain beers. Obviously, we did that with Guinness. That was fun. But otherwise, really enjoy highlighting other small breweries, local breweries, and we got to keep doing that too. I'll enjoy heading to Total and ABC and Jug and Bottle and those places looking for stuff that I haven't had. And
we'll have to coordinate our actual trips, so I can go by our Total Wine, you go by yours, and we can actually call and figure out if there's anything that's smaller breweries but still available at both locations. Would be super cool to do. So we'll work on it. We'll work on it. We're both very busy in the day, so we'll see.
When you said you were camping, where were you? Or what kind of camp? Was this glamping or was it really camping?
No, it was really camping. So usually we get a power and water lot so that we can at least plug in, charge phones, whatever. But this time they were all booked up. So we grabbed a few of the primitive sites at Ginny Springs, which is a great place to go if you like to drink beer floating down the river. It's one of the few that you can because it's not state owned. So cool. They don't stop you from doing that. Whereas some of the other big ones up here, you can't drink because you can. You can't.
Right.
But you can. So, but it's always a good time out there. So it can be a little bit crazy sometimes depending on what time of the year. And obviously, once you get into the summer, it's pretty hard for me to want to deal with that kind of humidity. But it was really beautiful out there this last weekend, except for Saturday night when it poured about seemingly 3 or 4 feet of water. And so everything was wet in all the tents. So everyone was pretty much just sleeping in their cars.
Yes, that's why I do not camp.
It depends. Like if it's going to be a nice dry time and it's not super hot or super cold, like kind of that perfect range of in the 70s, I think is just beautiful. So
yeah, we got like at least 3 weeks of the year where you get to do that.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much it. Yeah. I mean, there's some times in December, we went in December also. There's some times in December where it's cold, but with like a sleeping bag, it's not like frigidly cold. It's just like in the 40s to 50s. So it gets a little bit chilly, but it's still, in my opinion, comfortable as long as you're got a sleeping bag or something. If you're just laying on top of an air mattress, it's probably going to be too cold for that. But unless you're tougher than I am, which is not a challenge. All right, so coming back in, we've got some various articles. I've signed up for a lot of RSS feeds just to kind of keep my ear to the ground and kind of figure out what's going on around the country in craft beer. Hopefully we'll bring in some more Florida stuff, but as of right now, everything I feel like we're waiting for these legislative sessions as far as like legal aspects, and then, waiting for beer festivals and stuff to start popping up again. I know St. Augustine has one coming up, I believe, on May 8th. So if you want to check that out, but most of them are keeping it kind of like limited numbers for now. Hopefully before too long, maybe in another 4, 5, 6 months, we can get back to some of those bigger beer festivals that we all know and love, but we'll see. So anyway, I've been sending some articles to Matt here, and just kind of things that I found interesting across my perusing. And there's in Central Washington University has a brewing program that they've had for 10 years. And it used to be just a certification program, but now it's an actual 4-year degree from their College of Sciences. So said to get in on the brewing education up till now, they needed to be enrolled in the College of Sciences, but now they're making some changes so that if you're not in the College of Sciences, it's a little bit more attractive. You can easily move into that brewing program if you wanted. I think it's pretty interesting. I've done stuff as far as like just doing some little bit of home brewing, and I've felt like the education there and talking with other people that have done it, like, is kind of like a word of mouth and like tips and stuff on the processes, kind of like when you get into barbecuing, which I've gotten into. But to see more formalized is kind of interesting to see. And I'm curious where it'd be nice to like talk to some people that have gone through that program and see what it's done for them as far as like if they're in the industry or whatever the case may be. I'm curious, but
yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of schools out there that are adding various levels of this to their curriculum. I think that proliferation is awesome. Obviously, there's some very traditional, excellent brewing schools that are like the Siebel Institute out of Chicago. That's where our head brewer at Bay Canyon, Joe Simmons, that's where he went. The international course there, which is it's an 8 or 9 month program, 4 months here, 5 months in Europe. Real, full-time schooling and practical stuff, which is cool. I know Auburn has a pretty good one. I don't know the extent of it. I know Cal Davis has one also for winemaking, but USF here in Tampa has a brewer certificate, and they're starting to expand that a little bit as well. So a bunch of it's happening. I've been invited to join an advisory committee at Florida Gulf Coast University on this as well, which theirs is also very cool. It includes actual brewing and the histories of beer, sanitation, mashing, like all the real science of it, as well as the hospitality schools involved as well. So they're bringing in the brewing so that we can get some hands-on experience. And then they're bringing in the hospitality side, because most of the breweries are, of course, restaurants or at least tap rooms, and they need front of the house staff. They need to understand how that works, sales and marketing, probably, and all
some
of that.
business type of classwork aspects to it, you would think, as well.
Yeah.
Just for like a complete whole kind of on it. Because you can't like I said, like most of the people I know that have like brewers or people that have gone into it, they start, generally like they start messing around with it, or they get a job like working in the warehouse and then kind of learn from there. So it's less of the formalized and more of the just hands-on type of thing. So I kind of figure, and I was absolutely zero research, so I'm not quotable, and I'm not responsible if this is incorrect. I figure it's got to be more along the lines of like a kind of a whole program thing with brewing included, but also the other aspects that craft beer and being in part of the brewing scene, or like working at a brewery or anywhere else in it, like hops, like if you're going to the scientific field of that, and like, so there's a lot of ways I'm sure that it's useful and can go into. So I just thought it was an interesting little article. So I didn't know about Florida Gulf Coast, so that was nice to hear about.
and some folks from Fort Myers Brewery are involved on there too. And I'll probably be largely involved on the hospitality side in terms of the sales and marketing and entrepreneurship, and hopefully can get involved a little bit, because I'm very cynical about colleges at this point in time. I don't believe that the value exists in the vast, and I mean vast majority of collegiate programs. I always tell the story. My dad, he paid for his entire college education with a summer job. Every summer, went home, worked, and then that was enough to pay his tuition, and he worked at a fast food restaurant, and paid for his entire education. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can't do that.
Think about how absurd that is, to think like there are people in New York City paying $54,000 a year for their kids, like high school. And so it's just, when you get those types of dollars that kids are paying for college now, the information and the knowledge gained, it has to be so important that it's going to then translate to the professional field. I've said this to my wife before. If our daughters are admitted into Ivy League, into MIT or Stanford, then we will find a way to pay for it, and we will do it. Because you know why? The value's there. They could get a degree there at Harvard in philosophy, and anyone on Wall Street will want to hire them. Any school will want to hire them. Anybody will hire them. You know what I mean? So there's still a value there that is missing in so much else. And so some of the brewing stuff that we've seen, to get back online, is been very like certificate based. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna read some stories about how the shit works and then go ahead. And that's just like, that doesn't do us any good. You still need to go figure out how to get hired. And there's a better chance you're going to get hired if you go through a school that has an all grain brewing system that teaches these people how to actually make beer. Because part of the program I'm involved in, part of it is an internship that requires you to work at a local brewery, like unpaid. So, and that's for credit.
And that capstone course of it.
Yeah. And so this is how you can prepare. It's like student teaching. The one thing that colleges are great at are preparing teachers, but it's too expensive because teachers don't get paid anything. But in order to be a teacher, you must go through the education program, and you must student teach. You must be out there with the students, and that's important. You've got to go do this practical work. And brewing, holy cow, right? I've never homebrewed. You have. I mean, I see what goes on back there. I understand the unbelievable science that's involved. To just think that you can, sort of read some books about it and then go try to get a job is silly. And I think that's not fair to the kids. And now, like the program you talked about, Washington, and the program I'm doing, like now we're talking, right? They got a literal brewing system on campus where they're making beer. And that, to me, it becomes it's a smart move by the colleges, because they're going to charge what they're going to charge. But it's fair because it's real. There's actual value being derived.
There's more
there.
substance to it than just the piece of paper. Well, if you go to say a college and go through their like AC repair or something, or like you go through the ag school and you don't do any hands-on with like large animals, if that's what you're going into, or like if you never do any hands-on, like that's where like practical skill meets book knowledge. So it's the same thing with brewing. Brewing is very simple in concept. Like I could explain to anybody, but then there's all sorts of little small things that like when you add hops into boil that will boil over at some point, you got to be, if you're just using a regular turkey pot type of fryer system, you got to be ready to cut it back some so that it'll settle down, and it'll do that a couple different times through it. And that's stuff that you can read about it in the book. But
Right.
until you have hands-on and are doing it and have done it enough to, see it coming, recognize it, and be able to do what you need to do to like advance past that step. It's a very simple concept. Obviously you boil water, put your grain in, or, if you're using extract, syrup things, like some people do half and half grain, and like, it's simple technically.
Yep.
But there's a lot more to it than just those like 4 or 5 steps that are the like overarching brewing steps. There's a lot that goes into like the spaces in between.
Oh God, there's just tons. I mean, you could probably, and I think people do, but you could probably get an entire degree on understanding what to do, how to make, how to create, how to keep alive yeast.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable science.
I mean, they're at the bigger breweries too. Like they'll have entire like lab departments and stuff for like their live yeasts. They will, of course, have people that have gone to school, like a practical type of science degree, and that what they're doing is, cultivating and maintaining these yeast strains that they will then use in the beer.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to it. There's a lot of science involved.
I think if you step back and just kind of take a 30,000 foot view of it, what it says to me, which is positive, is that this isn't just a little boys club, and look at these guys over here making beer for fun. This is a real business with real jobs and billions of dollars of revenue across the country that are being made. And so colleges they're not quick with this, but they are adapting, and that also then adds credibility to what we're doing in our industry, and hopefully adds jobs, and then also adds dollars to those to the pot, which increases the value of the jobs.
Yeah.
If I look at it with my social glasses, it's like, man, anybody can go do something for 25 grand, 35 grand, and 45 grand, but like, and love is important, but everyone must pay the bills in this rat race that we live in. And so if you can increase the value of your industry, then you can, I think, really make some positive change and make people want to come to your industry too. Like if a scientist was going to go be an engineer over here for this thing, they love beer, they might go do it over there because the money's pretty good too,
Yeah.
Yep.
You got to be competitive with money. Like, I mean, everyone wants to do something purely for the love of whatever they're doing, but sometimes it's not practical. If it's only going to pay you this much and it's not even enough to pay your rent and utilities, then you can't do it just for the love of it unless you got a backup hustle or some side money or something.
Yeah, or a sugar mama or a sugar daddy.
Wherever you're getting it from, survive.
Which if we're gonna be honest and offer a peek into my life, this project isn't possible without my wife having a real job and a good one, and there's certainly some privilege in that, but that it's also part of how you end up trying to make your way. You're gonna need some help always. And I think my wife could do her own marketing studio. I think it could be, she would crush, but that comes with a level of risk that we aren't ready to take on at this point because of what we have chosen to do for me. And
maybe at some point you'll reach to some place, and then you guys will be willing to kind of take that risk because you'll be in this position that allows that. And that's what life really is all about. especially marriage. Marriage is all about that kind of like back and forth, give and take. Advice from someone who's been married for 12 years now, almost 12 years, 11 and a half.
It's really important. I think if you talk to most people, you'll end up with those kinds of stories. Like, this never happens unless X. And, so timing is a big piece, but ultimately these schools providing a real foundation for, actual knowledge and practical knowledge is I think is a great step, and I look forward to hearing more about it.
I may try to make it a personal goal, even if I don't bring it up on here, depending on how much information I can actually find to go look. Because sometimes colleges and schools will put out little reports about, jobs, like job fields, and what percentage of people graduating from a program ended up getting a job out of school. So I'm kind of curious to look at some of these programs and see the differences and what the statistics kind of play out. Anyway, it's neat stuff. I'm definitely always curious to see and love to see the advancement in the slow but steady adjustment to life and business in the United States.
Yeah,
always interesting.
Speaking of life and business, you sent me something about a brewery accepting Bitcoin.
Yeah. So this payment ties back into the whole blockchain thing. So we're going whole crypto. Well, we're going partially cryptocurrency in this episode. But Stillfire Brewing, one of the first breweries to open in Gwinnett, Georgia, is the first brewery in Georgia to accept cryptocurrency. They're going to be taking Bitcoin in their tap room. So that's already in effect. You can already pay with it, which is one of the big things that I've always seen people mention with Bitcoin is it seems more like an investment than it is currency, because like, where do you actually spend it at? Or do you just trade it on the market?
Okay. So they are taking the Bitcoin as payment. There is no conversion. Is that accurate? Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It does certainly seem more like an investment at this point. However,
so here's what it says. It's they use Coinbase to handle the payments, which Coinbase, I believe, just went public on their IPO.
Yeah. Shout out to Nas and Kevin Durant coming up big time on their Coinbase investments.
Yep, they definitely came up big time. But they so it lets merchants accept Bitcoin and then have US dollars deposited the next day for like a 1% fee, which 1% is honestly quite a bit lower than credit cards. So
of course.
So it is a little bit cheaper, but so Coinbase is keeping the Bitcoin and just giving the money to as the payment processing type of thing. So there is cash involved, because like once they got to, if they were just accepting Bitcoin and then they have to figure out selling the Bitcoin to get the money back out of it, that would be that'd probably be more steps than any business would really want to like try to work through and figure out, because then you're holding an asset that can't really spend. But if it's being converted directly the next day into just cash deposited in your accounts, then that's kind of okay.
So that makes more sense. And actually, while we're talking right now, I'm going to go in and text my friend a link to that because my friend that I played football with in college is one of the founding members of a company called Backed, B-A-A-K-T or B-A-K-K-T. B-A-K-K-T, Backed. And it is
like PayPal for crypto.
Yes, but not just crypto. Literally any digital currency that you own. So Hilton Rewards points, Starbucks points, like you name it. And it's taking it all, and they're doing the conversion with the with the company and putting cash in yours. Because I immediately said, well, I'm broke and I don't own any crypto. Do you have a merchant account? Because we could definitely take it at the brewery. And they're working on it.
That's pretty cool. I pulled it up on the webpage just now.
So now this makes sense to me. I think it's fantastic. But imagine, see, Bitcoin's one thing, but not everyone has it. Imagine if you could travel, you go to the local brewery and you've got some American Airlines points and you can buy beers. Like you would use those miles to buy beers.
That'd be cool.
And
I got some on my Southwest I'm ready to spend right now.
Yeah, that's sort of the genesis of it. But yes, the businesses need it deposited into our bank account. When you said that, I was wondering, I'm like, so are they becoming Bitcoin investors then? You know what I mean? Like, are they just taking the Bitcoin and giving beer?
They depending on if Bitcoin continues this upward trajectory, you may just want to keep the Bitcoin.
Maybe, but holy cow, dude, that's volatile and super risky. And usually it ain't just one dude's or woman's money that is at risk with these businesses. That would be that'd be a hell of a board call. Be like, well, so we're not going to take money from people who can give 20%. Us Bitcoin. That's pretty cool. I do believe in that. I think that I believe in it as a currency exchange. Like you said, it's an investment, but at the same time, you can buy stuff with it.
Yeah, and that was the big criticism up until some of these like Coinbase and others, obviously programs like this one backed, which does cryptocurrency as well, was that you can get cryptocurrency, but how do you spend it? Like, because the whole point of a currency is that you spend it. So if you can't spend it, then is it truly a currency? So
my guy's company is backed by some real big dollars and companies, because it just really, I think it really ultimately opens the door to, it's just whatever you have that can be counted as currency, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, and then if you're Southwest Airlines, for example, and I can travel to, and then I can go to the bar and I can buy a dinner and some drinks with Southwest Airline miles. Southwest Airline miles now become way more valuable.
Yeah.
I mean,
because instead of just having to be like, well, now I got to fly somewhere.
Yeah, I got to plan a trip because guess what? You know, like, it's not just the flight that you got to pay for when you go on a trip, and it's harder to do that.
Hotel, Airbnb, food.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but it also then it does on the other side, it incentivizes people to travel, to earn the miles, to spend them how they want. And so I think it's an incredible idea.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool stuff. I hadn't heard about Backed until now, but I'm gonna have to read up more on it now that you've brought it to mind.
Yeah, and in that, I mean, and as a brewery personally, and for any, I suppose, small entrepreneurial hospitality focused place, I mean, that's big time, because everyone's got some shitty 1,500 miles on their American Airlines card that they can't get anything with, and they could probably go get 8 beers with it or something or whatever, you know.
Or you just have like some Chick-fil-A points, and you're like, I don't know if I necessarily want a small soft serve ice cream. Right. You put it towards my beer over here. Cool. It's pretty neat. But so one last thing I wanted to touch on, because last episode I mentioned, talking about like the decrease in business, like I mentioned wine and liquor, and then I didn't have the numbers on craft beer. Well, since then, in my RSS feed, the Brewers Association released their annual report, and they did reveal that there's an all-time high of operating breweries, but it has the first production decline in the craft beer, like kind of modern era, being down 9% from the previous year's report. So that means by volume, the market share went down about 1.3%, which doesn't seem like a lot, but you're talking a lot of money. But that's like just in like volume. Like if you convert that into money, it's a pretty big change. But obviously there's a lot of breweries, and there was less volume needed just because of COVID and shutdowns happening across the country. So hopefully those numbers, and they should, reverse. But I just wanted to update what we talked about in the last episode on that.
And the majority of breweries, of those 9,000 or 8,700 or whatever it is, the majority of them are small, and they were all shut down, at least for a certain amount of time, and some cases a lot of time. So that production, the production to begin with was small, and so the numbers that were lost per brewery were small, but when you put them all together
collectively.
Yeah, no doubt. And then, the big ones, everybody too, like, imagine if you're Cigar City and you're not selling any on-premise beer. I mean, that's a big number. And when you multiply that by all of the breweries that are doing big numbers, it's I fully expected that to be the case.
And another thing that I wanted to bring up, just to humanize this a little bit, because when you're talking numbers, it's easy to just kind of dismiss it out of hand. So, and craft brewers provided more than 138,000 direct jobs, which most breweries are small operations. You'll have, a few people in front of the house. If you've got a kitchen, you have to add a little bit more, but a brewer or two, usually a head brewer and at least someone to assist, but that is down 14% from 2019. So that's pandemic, really.
Yep.
So I just wanted to bring that in, humanize it a little bit. There's been a lot of challenges, but hopefully that'll start to fix up here soon.
Yeah, we're seeing positive gains. I don't think anybody's out of the woods yet, so to speak. There's, I think, some lag in some potential calamity that could happen, but for the most part, our industry has been able to stave off, I think, real chaos. And
and much credit to a lot of local governments, and a lot of states have given some flexibility as far as like so at Gainesville, for instance, this is just in general, just to give an example of like flexibility in local government. Like, we have open container laws, but they did away with the open container laws while people were shifting tables and stuff to outside. They just did away with it during that time frame. That's just an example. There have been some governments that have been a little bit more helpful than others, but generally speaking, I feel like the local governments want their businesses in their local area to succeed, so they've been trying to do what they can within the boundaries of state and federal law to facilitate that a little bit. So
yeah, for sure, they have. We can. I think people here can make cocktails and send them out the door for bars, which really helps.
We had those going on. So yeah.
There'll be a bunch of that stuff that comes down to. I think that, again, the Florida Brewers Guild and all the brewers here got their booties handed to them at the legislative session. Don't have much more to say about that than that. Maybe there might be a couple other things that pop up, but they failed again. It's a tough year too.
I really want to say, like, I'm mostly talking about local, city, county type of stuff as opposed to state level. The further up the chain you get in the government, the less helpful they are. And everything up in Tallahassee at the political state level, I'm not even talking about them.
Yeah, that's true. That's good clarification.
Yeah, I wanted to be clear. I'm not trying to give the benefit of the doubt to people that don't deserve it, just the ones that have tried to help their businesses in their area at like a city and county and district kind of level.
Yeah, the county, Hillsborough County gave us 20 grand. The city gave us 5 that went directly to rent, or for us, mortgage and utilities. So, I got plenty that I can complain about regarding the city and the county, but they took it upon themselves to try to help. Yeah,
that's good.
Absolutely.
That's good. And that's what the government's supposed to be there, is to help people. And in my opinion, small businesses are people, because that's someone took their money and started up a small business, and that's all their money going into it, type of thing. So, so some of them are helpful, some of them aren't, but overall, I feel like most of them want to help the small business in their area, because that's where the people in the communities work and get their money from. So it only helps.
Yeah, man. It's nice to be on the backside of this, to start to study a little bit, and hopefully things a bunch of changes can happen a little more quickly than they would have at all the different government levels, and we'll onward and upward.
All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to have another quick, short segment, and it's going to be called Hold My Beer. So give us just a second, and we'll be right back with that. And then we'll wrap it up and let you get on with your day. So this next segment is called Hold My Beer. This is Florida Man inspired, but the stories may not always be Florida Man, but they will be, at the very least, no matter what country, state, city, municipality, planet they come from, they will at the very least be honorary Florida Man. So Matt, why don't you take us away with this first story in this. Maybe time in the future we'll go over some of the wackiest Florida Man stories that you may or may not have heard of and really dive deep.
So this was just this past weekend, I believe, right? There's a bridge over to the beach in Daytona. I mean, honestly, all you need to do is Google drawbridge jump and it'll come right up. And I suppose probably sexist of me to assume that it's a dude, but this just seems like
something a dude would do.
It's the dudiest thing maybe you could imagine. This guy is driving real fast. It's early in the morning too. It's like 8:00 in the morning towards the beach. The drawbridge arms, the train arms come down. He smashes through them and proceeds, as the drawbridge is raising, proceeds to give himself a little launch pad and jump over. Now, it wasn't wild, and the car certainly survived it, and he drove off. The cameras got him, and the police have said, the best part is the police have said it's not the first time it's happened. Oh, my God. And they will obviously look for him and levy whatever penalties they can. So first let me say this. It happened in Florida. But in beach towns in Florida, they are populated with many, many folks who are not from Florida, nor do they currently live in Florida. I have a hard time believing that a tourist would pull that move because that's pretty nuts, but you never know. And big shout out to whoever that was and the giant cojones. But man, what an incredible way to start your day. Sunrise, drawbridge jump, and drive off.
I mean, it happens. Sometimes you're just not paying attention and you have to jump over a drawbridge. Let he who has never done this cast the first stone. I'm just saying.
I got stones. I mean, I'm certainly semi-aggressive when I drive, but that's not in the program for me.
So in my opinion, I was thinking about this earlier. I was showing the video to my wife. I'm kind of like, I feel like that's a person that was on their phone and looked up as they smashed through and were like, well,
I'm in it.
I've already done this much, so I'm just going for it now. Or the other side is that it was a person that was trying to beat the arm, and we're going, like when you try to beat, the yellow switch into red, and you're not going to make it, but you're like,
yeah,
let's just try it. So it's one of those two things, because I
think there's a third option.
I highly doubt this person woke up. I mean, they could actually be drunk. This is Florida, so
okay, thank you.
And this is a beer show, so we should at least pay lip service to the fact that this person.
He maybe didn't go to bed at all, and was coming from somewhere that smells like perfume, and had a few drinks. I mean, I don't even think that's that crazy of a scenario, to be honest.
No,
and that's not a Florida thing. Don't even get me started. I'm from small town Minnesota, man. I was doing community service with a dude who had 7 DUIs. So I know it gets real grimy out there everywhere in America, but we had to certainly start with Florida, the Florida man.
We'll find out. If we find out we get an arrest, like if I see it on the news, the man that did it, I will update if it's an actual Floridian or if it was somebody from out of state that was down here. I'll try to look it up and get an update once it's known. But as of right now, it's a Florida man or Florida woman. Florida women are also a thing. It's called Florida man as an overall title, but Florida women, you see crazy stories there too. And while they may not always be from Florida,
the Florida man moniker began and started because we have such open press laws here. The Sunshine something Golden or State Sunshine Act back a long time ago. It provides for a very, very easy transfer of information to the press that's actually required by the police department. And so they can get information so fast on what happened last night that my understanding is at least a lot of it just started with Florida man because they didn't have all this stuff wasn't identified. Like what we just talked about, right? They don't even know who this guy is, but we know it happened because it was on the cameras and people just call up and they're like, what do you got for me? And they're required to give it to them. And apparently, and I didn't know this, but apparently in other states, that's not the case. Like there's a lot of rigmarole and hoops to jump through for press to get
it takes time.
Information. Yeah. So anyway, that's the little background on the Florida man.
Probably like all these police agencies probably just like have a person whose job it is just to compile all the stuff that happened in the last 24 hours so that when that press person calls, they can just dump it all on them and be like, here you go, do what you want.
Right. And it's also all of y'all out there, if anybody's listening from other states, you got crazy people too. It's just, that's how it started. And so, you know what, we'll take the lead on it. It's fun. It's comical. And we'll go from there.
I'll say if you're listening from another state, you don't have to come down here and try to top Florida man. Just let Florida man, and you can Wisconsin man or New York man or wherever you're from, you can just be a normal person. But if you
there's a lot of Wisconsin men. I can assure you there are a lot of Wisconsin men.
If you do decide to come down here, your state is irrelevant. Once you're down here and you do something wacky or wild or crazy, you're just going to be Florida man. So you may as well just move here.
Love it.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks for listening to our first news segment. Like I said, maybe I'll go troll through some old stories and just see what the wackiest stuff I can find. Just put it out there. You may or may not have heard of them. I probably haven't heard of even a quarter of the stories, but we'll get over it. I've noticed a lot of Eastern Bloc European countries that have like Florida men of their own. So,
ooh, yeah, we could expand this Hold My Beer segment to global news for sure. In fact, we should. I'm going to be heading out to Mexico on Friday, so we'll catch you in a couple of weeks. Big shout out to Resident Culture and Community Brewing Ventures. We appreciate you. Ben, always a pleasure, my man. And we'll talk to you guys soon. It was
fun to chat. Enjoy your trip to Mexico, and we'll record again when you're back.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you, man.